Okay. Hi, everyone. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the 2025 National Conference on Ending Homelessness is taking place on unceded Indigenous lands. The Ganyagay Haga is recognized as the custodians of this land and waters in which we gather today. Jojage, Montreal, is historically known as the gathering place for many First Nations. Today, it's home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples. We respect the continued connection with the past, present, and future in our ongoing relationship with Indigenous and other peoples from coast to coast. Today's session highlights two grassroots and frontline initiatives from across Canada that are redefining shelter and support systems through leadership of people with lived and living experience of homelessness, addiction, and mental health challenges. From urban tent cities to rural shelters, these peer-led models challenge traditional top-down approaches by prioritizing dignity, harm reduction, and community empowerment. You will hear from Fiona York, Katie Hawking, and team about Crab Park Community Warming Bus in Vancouver, run by former encampment residents, which provides safe, inclusive space for those often excluded from traditional shelters. And you'll also hear from Krista Miller from rural Nova Scotia about Roof 25 shelter offering a low barrier harm reduction model that centers lived experience in staffing and leadership. Please join me in welcoming Krista to present first.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm not a very good public speaker yet, so I hope you're all a very forgiving group. So I'm Krista Miller. I'm from Nova Scotia, the South Shore particularly. I work for South Shore Open Doors Association, and we are operating a homeless shelter, which is one of the only shelters on the South Shore of Nova Scotia. So we're kind of encompassing many different areas, folks coming to us for support. So I wanted to talk a little bit about SODA itself. SODA operates the shelter called Roof 25, but I just wanted to give a little background before we dive into the rest. So founded in 2021, SODA was formed, and we provide supports to a bunch of different folks, mainly centering around housing insecurity, energy poverty, and homelessness. We are in rural Nova Scotia. So rural Nova Scotia includes small towns, villages, and countryside communities that are spread across the South Shore. Specifically, we are in Bridgewater, Nova Scotia, but SODA also services Queens County, which encompasses like Liverpool and like the in-betweens. So the population we roughly could service would be about 60,000 with the two counties combined. And we face a lot of struggles being rural and operating a shelter in a rural community, such as like inadequate transit, lack of services, and a ton of NIMBYism. And from a bunch of other presentations I've been in today, it seems like we can all kind of relate on that NIMBYism in rural communities, which is super unfortunate. So SODA in general, at the office location, this is kind of how we organize things in terms of staff. So we do a lot of HIFIS coordination. All of the staff are trained to use HIFIS. We have housing support workers, some that service Bridgewater and Lunenburg County, and then Liverpool and Queens County. We have a trustee who helps folks kind of manage their money. We have a shelter operator, who would be myself. We have an intake worker, an intake coordinator at the office, which is kind of like the point of contact when trying to get in to have help from our services. We also have an intensive case manager, and we do a lot of by name list coordination. Our mission, realistically, is to open doors to safe, appropriate, energy efficient, and affordable housing for everyone in Lunenburg and Queens County. It's a huge mission. It's something that we would absolutely love to achieve in the future. As you can see, our vision is a healthy, vibrant, diverse, and inclusive community without homelessness, housing vulnerabilities, or any kind of energy poverty. So this is just kind of a snapshot of some of the monthly stats that we send out to folks on our mailing list to kind of see the data that we're getting from our community. So as you can see, Since 2021, SODA has completed 819 intakes to date. Just in September, this is September's snapshot here, we did 12 intakes. The folks that we are currently working with that have an active intake that are homeless or at risk of homelessness, 75. As you can see, the numbers are quite high for a rural community. There's even some families with children. SODA provides a lot of financial aid also to folks experiencing energy poverty. So we do help folks pay like rental arrears as well, but also like a late power bill. So as you can see, we've identified 304 households experiencing energy poverty, which totals over 271,000, I believe that says. So we see a lot of this in our rural community. So the team at SODA, we have a board of directors that oversee all the things that we do. We have a CEO. I just want to give a quick shout out. Like, part of my whole team is over here in the corner. They all came to support me today. So give them a shout out, please. So our CEO, our operations manager, our trustee, we have a system planner, we have a HIFAS lead, a coordinated access lead as well. An intake coordinator, housing support workers for both Lunenburg and Queens, an intensive case manager, a shelter assistant manager, a shelter manager. We have anywhere between 15 and 20 shelter workers at any given time, and then we have a cleaner also. So where we are rural, our funding predominantly comes from what you can see here. We do kind of specialize in coordinated access in our community. So we do get a little bit of funding from the municipality, like the town of Bridgewater, but most of it does come from the province and AHAN, so Reaching Home. So I want to talk a little bit about our shelter, kind of give you a rundown on how it became a thing. So SODA opened in 2021, and as you can see here, the shelter opened its doors on November 15th of 2023. So realistically, the need was proven that a shelter would benefit our community and its residents, the ones who are experiencing homelessness and the ones who are not. Due to an increase in like OSD, so OSD is now occupational social development. They change it so many times. Opportunities of social development, yes, and. It used to be called Department of Community Services. That's what I'm stuck to in my brain. It's really hard for me to change that. But there was a multitude of OSD-funded hotel stays, an increase of tents in the community, an increase of encampments, and a lot of like wasted money coming from OSD being put into these hotel stays that ultimately resulted in like a lot of damage or other things like that. So they kind of asked us, they hinted around to us, the province did, that they would like somebody in the area to operate a shelter, and they asked us if we would do that. They wanted us to open November 15th. They asked us this question September 18th. With no location secured, no funding, no management, nothing planned, like nothing. So we agreed that we would do that. A location was then secured by the province, not through us, which is a church in Bridgewater. Then the funding was provided to secure a management position and to cover the startup costs and the ongoing costs of operating a shelter. That happened exactly 1 month after they asked us to open a shelter. So we started working immediately to get these policies created, to make sure we had beds and cots and blankets and all of the things that we needed. And then we had to figure out a name. That was the last thing we were stuck on. We decided Roof 25 because it's a roof over your head, and we are located at 25 Phoenix Street in Bridgewater. And we opened for the first night on November 15th in 2023. So not included in this slide is kind of the behind the scenes of what happened right before this ask from the province came into us. We had a pretty severe hurricane, and there were a lot of folks in tents and in encampments in Bridgewater, and the province asked us if we could find the space, if we would manage a temporary storm shelter. We opened in the basement of a different church. We had like Red Cross cots and blankets, and there was 2 people staffed, and we had, I think, 4 guests come in and stay the night out of the storm. And it kind of just took that little initiative on our end for the province to be like, okay, we can give them extra tasks. They want to do this work. Let's see if they'd be willing to do something different. So that's kind of how that started. And it all happened, as you can see, very quickly. So our shelter is located within a mess hall of a church. There's a lot of pros and cons to being in this kind of space. Some pros, the location is ideal. We don't own the building also at the moment, so a pro to that, I guess, could be that we don't have to really deal with any of the maintenance right now. But the cons, the space is so limited, and what we can do in the space is also like limited and dictated by the church and the space. The space itself is not equipped for what a homeless shelter needs. For example, our power outlets to run our computer systems, there's like one in the main hall that can run it without flicking all of the other breakers off. We have one bathroom for like 15, 25, sometimes 30 people. Our shelter is at any given time able to be a 30-bed shelter. We don't have a staff break room. We don't have a storage room. We don't have like an observation room. We don't really have any of that. So we're just making it work with what we have at the moment. A lot of NIMBYism from the community, especially with some like really immediate neighbors, just not happy with the location and some of the stuff that you may see outside of a shelter. It's pretty common in rural communities. We also do not operate 24/7. We are open 8 to 8 overnight. Most service providers we need to talk to close at 5 p.m. and open at 9 a.m. So that's another really big con of kind of being stuck in a space where we can't use the daytime and like open to a 24-hour shelter. So we were originally funded to operate with 15 beds that were co-ed, 19 plus, low barrier, or behavior-based, whichever you prefer to say. We recently extended the capacity with increased funding from the province to 30 beds due to some wildfires and a woods ban in our province that like ultimately resulted in anyone in an encampment or in a tent in the woods having to come out, or they would face potentially a really big fine. We actually did not have a huge increase of occupancy during that time frame, but we hope to be able to stay at that number for the winter because last winter we were turning people away at the door due to being at capacity. So hopefully with this increase, we can kind of bridge that. We are low barrier. That was something I myself, as a person with lived experience, really wanted to hit home on when we started to think about how we wanted to operate this shelter. So like, there's hardly any requirements to get into our shelter, as long as safety is not a concern to the person that's trying to enter or anybody else in the building, including staff and other guests. So if that person is intoxicated, but they can get themselves into the shelter, they know where they are, they can sign their paperwork, they can stay the night. We do close intakes at 11 to kind of keep things fair and consistent. We've kind of had some trouble with that kind of stuff. But we provide a hot meal as soon as they enter. There's drinks, snacks, there's a shower, bathrooms, all of that kind of stuff. So I'll give you a quick snapshot of what we're working with. So those double doors are what we use to go in and out of the shelter. We did have to put some signage up just because people really could not find us, and there's like multiple double gray doors on this church. So this is kind of what we're working with on the inside. We have beds lining all of the walls of the church. We use room dividers to separate beds so that folks have a little bit of privacy. As you can see, we are all in one tiny space, so it is hard to maintain privacy and whatnot. There's the other, like a back shot of the church. We have it decorated for Halloween. We like to do events and programming and stuff like that. This is our kitchen. It does its job, but we could definitely benefit from having like an industrial kitchen. And when I say like we have no storage, I mean like this is our storage. It's in an attic. We have to kind of just make do with what we have, with what we're given. And it can be a pain at times, but we are also very thankful to be given this opportunity. So now I kind of want to talk about lived experience experts and how lived experience leadership is super crucial when providing these kinds of services, and also including people with lived experience into creating like policies and procedures and making sure that the work is done safely and effectively. So the idea is that people with lived and living experience of drug use, homelessness, mental health, and more are the real experts of their needs, risks, and the strategies that keep them safe, because like who knows one better than themselves. Excluding them leads to programs that may miss the mark or potentially even cause harm, which is often unintentional, but really hard to reverse. This harm can be caused at multiple levels, from organizational, so like ineffective and harmful policies, to individual, like silencing people's voices and undermining their empowerment, and to the broader homelessness response system, so society continuing to just kind of manage homelessness rather than transform the conditions, kind of figure out what is happening that creates it. Involving people with lived experience leads to more humane, effective, and sustainable outcomes for both individuals and the organization itself. So research has consistently shown that engaging people with lived experience achieves higher satisfaction amongst clients, lower rates of conflict and turnover, better housing retention post-shelter, stronger staff morale and empathy. Overall, people with lived experience are crucial in helping develop trauma-informed and dignity-centered approaches that reflect real needs of real people. So management with lived experience, as you can see here, it's just some key points that we like to hit home on. I myself, as the manager of Roof 25, I have a lot of lived experience with youth homelessness, mental health, and addiction. Our shelter was basically created from the ground up by somebody with lived experience, somebody who wanted to operate a low barrier shelter, somebody who would advocate for one, somebody who is harm reduction focused, person-centered, a very strong advocator, and someone who has a lot of passion. So myself, I'll talk a little bit about my lived experience. So I combined my lived experience with addiction and community services schooling. I have 10 years of sobriety. I was, thank you. I first became addicted to opioids within the very first week of starting grade 10. It was very hard for me to be able to graduate high school. I honestly can't tell you to this day how I did it. I was not living home. My parents did not want me there. I was sleeping in my friends' cars, sleeping on people's couches, going to whichever grandparent could handle me for that level of, or that amount of time at that time. I became fully dependent on opioids within a few months of being in grade 10. And all of this stuff was like really, really hard on me as a person, especially being a youth starting out. It took me 6 years to decide that I really needed to change my life. I ended up going on the OAT program, so I was on methadone for 3 years. I fully tapered off of that program. I live a prescription pill-free life, just trying to fight the good fight and be a good mother and a good coworker and all of the other stuff. So I really believe that people like myself need to be in these roles. They need to have that experience to be able to translate it out into the community effectively. So our assistant manager is also here in the front. She has lived experience as well, almost 11 years sober for her. So let's give her a round of applause also. Erica started as a shelter worker, then she moved on to the intake role at SODA, and now she's back at the shelter working as my assistant manager. So there's definitely potential for folks with lived experience to grow in an organization. Policy and the policies that we created shape the reality of what it is like to be in this position in life by somebody who has lived many of these challenges. The best interests of the guests using the services, case by case at all times. No one is the same. Everybody's trauma is going to be completely different. The approaches you're going to have to take with these people are going to vary drastically. And people with lived experience often speak up on behalf of people who are afraid to do so or can't, just for many various reasons. Bringing change and light to stereotypes, stigma, and NIMBYism, long-rooted policy. We try to do all of that by saying, like, look, we've done this, we've tried to live this, these policies don't work, they're not person-centered. Always bringing things back trying to be the voice of reason in conversations, especially when it's like with other organizations or the municipality and all that kind of stuff. And then to serve as a role model, showing that recovery, stability, and leadership is absolutely possible. I don't hide my lived experience from my guests at the shelter or at all in my personal life. I am a completely open book. I believe that recovering loud, like really loud, almost being annoying about it, is the only way to show people who have these views that have probably been long instilled in their brains that change is possible. People are not bad for using substances or having mental health issues, and they can change. Authentic credibility and empathy, so following policy in less extreme circumstances, always giving people chance after chance after chance, no matter what. And even like in some extreme circumstances, if the work has been done, it's been documented, the steps are proven, we probably give you another chance. Like, I would not be here today doing the job I do or here speaking if somebody in my life, multiple people in my life, wouldn't have given me chance after chance after chance after chance to prove myself. And I see a lot of this in the guests that we serve, and it's honestly pretty rewarding. I'll go to the next slide. So staff with lived experience. So at Roof 25, we strive to hire people with lived experience in some context. As someone who is a part of the hiring process at Roof 25, I consider lived experience just as good as a degree in a specific field. Like, who knows better than someone that has lived, like, boots on the ground in these situations. Lived experience is extremely important to the work we all do. Again, more equitable relationships with service providers and service users. Being knowledgeable and passionate about what you are speaking about is super helpful when you're trying to build rapport and get your point across. It provides credibility and the ability to create long withstanding rapport with the shelter guests. Like, they get me. I hear that all the time. You get me. It's like, there's just something different about you. I don't know what it is. And then it comes out in conversation like, yeah, I've been where you are today. Like, I understand that. And they're like, I knew it. I knew it. So like, then I'm like, if I can, you can. So like, how can we help you get here? And the ability to empathize and understand the shelter guests from a different perspective. Like, a lot of them will be like, walk a mile in my shoes. Some of us can actually respond and say like, I have. So it's very helpful. And it's also a little bit easier to initiate difficult conversations in a way that may not be helpful coming from someone that has no hands-on knowledge of the experience that you're dealing with. Textbook knowledge is super great, but sometimes it doesn't compare to the boots on the ground, lived experience knowledge. So we have some guest testimonials. We have a lot of seniors at our shelter. They feel like it is a very safe place for them to be. That makes me happy, even though it is a very unfortunate situation. So we had someone say, I'm a homeless senior. The shelter has kept me safe on many occasions. Some guests say that the shelter is like a family. They've received support during some of the absolute worst periods in their life, and we're still able to move forward, get respect from staff, be able to stay somewhere safe, and be understood. Another one, I feel like management and staff can relate to us in our situation. Some have walked in our shoes. It feels good to talk to them and not have to worry about judgment. Everybody's so friendly and helpful. Management can understand how we feel. Sounds good. And seeing people with lived experience in leadership roles shows me that I can turn my life around just like they did. So we break down a lot of barriers in our community. We offer a low barrier service because it increases access and engagement to our services. Many people do avoid traditional shelters because of the strict rules or the requirements for sobriety to get in and all of the other things to enter. It enhances safety and quality of life. So like, fewer encampments have been in Bridgewater since the shelter has opened. We see a lot less tents. We have a lot less of police coming to us trying to solve that. And it reduces the strain on emergency services. While we do still get calls to and from the shelter to emergency services, we can plan and casework and document to try to figure out how to avoid this stuff in the future. And of course, low barrier does not mean high expectations nor high abuse. So we have policies and procedures in place to keep our staff safe, make sure that people know what they can and cannot do. So just some common issues with low barrier shelters in our area. As you can see, NIMBYism, complaints, substance use, violence, health, crime, and then the needs versus what we can provide. So none of my staff are nurses. We are not psychiatrists. We are not social workers. So it makes it very hard when someone's needs are extreme and we cannot provide that. We do a lot of harm reduction advocacy. I'm running short on time, but I have like 2 slides left, so I won't go through this too much. But we operate a low barrier behavior-based shelter. We engage in compassionate access during the winter when it's cold, so nobody is turned away. Progressive discipline, so start out slow, work your way up. Encourage safe use by distributing clean syringes, pipes, and all of that kind of stuff through the use of mainline needle exchange. We do community cleanups and provide education around safe disposal of syringes. We use a lot of Katie and other resources to help advocate and keep people aware about different infectious diseases and whatnot. We do a lot of overdose prevention. I'm a naloxone trainer, so we do a lot of that kind of stuff. We advocate for access to healthcare, provide essentials, hire staff with lived experience. But basically, there's nothing about us without us at the end of the day. People who use substances or drugs or alcohol must be actively involved in designing and shaping and then implementing these policies that affect their lives. I also want to highlight that we should be paying people very effectively that have lived experience for the work that they're doing for us. We need to pay them like an hourly wage, the same we would be getting paid, like appreciate their expertise and all of that. So just super quick, we do some cool programming at our shelter. We do have a photographer that works at our shelter who is also here in the room. She has taken some very lovely photos of some of our guests we did this program Portraits with Dignity, kind of like a transformative campaign, give some people the chance to have a feel-good moment and get these photos in a hard copy to take home with them, not take home with them, but take with them and to have to look back on. So just some other little stats before I end. Typically, you can see the ages we serve, 26 to 54. Most of the guests we have, it's because they don't have housing at all. But we do have some really happy outcomes. So like we've had 19 people leave our shelter to go to stable housing. We've had 15 leave to like insecure or inadequate housing. So like a rooming situation or a fixed term lease, like, cause that's never secure. And we've had people go to corrections or detox, transitional supportive housing, et cetera, et cetera. 45 police calls to Roof 25 since January 1st. I think that's pretty good for us. So what's next for us? We want to grow. We want a 24-hour shelter. We want supportive housing. We want our folks in the shelter who have minimal chance at succeeding with a market landlord to be able to have a supportive place to live the rest of their life at. So that's kind of where we're at, and we're just looking for the property and the buildings to be able to do so. So just safe spaces for everybody. But if anyone wants to reach out to me, I have business cards. I'll be up here afterwards, and my info is there.
Thank you, Krista. That was fantastic. I'm going to call up our Fiona York, Katie Hawking, and the CRAB. I want to say CRAB, not sure if that's right. Okay, it is the Crab Park Community Warming Bus from Vancouver. So there's 7 of them. So if you can give us just a minute to get everybody up here and settled. There is going to be Q&A after, okay? Can we set the mics up on the panel? Thank you. Check.
Are we working over here? Yeah.
Is this working? Yeah, you guys can hear us? Good afternoon. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that we are gathered here on the traditional and unceded territory of the Kanien'kehá:ka First Nation, known in their language as Teotihuacan. Our work, which is in Vancouver, British Columbia, takes place on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. Now let us introduce ourselves. I'm Natasha Shingus. I was homeless at Crab Park for 2024 and 2025. And since then, I have found housing and got sober 444 days today. And now I help those in need in the downtown east side.
My name is Fiona. I don't have lived experience, but I've worked with Crowd Park and with other tent cities for about 8 years now. So I was like a helper and advocate at Crowd Park.
My name is Athena Pronto, and myself with my 3 sons have experienced homelessness due to clerical issues and problems within BC housing, and the fact that there's some serious issues that are need to be addressed because actually homeless twice because of clerical issues, and looking at a 3rd bout of homelessness because of I'm not sure. There's something seriously wrong within that system because it's not working. I myself and my sons have survived 7 months the first time and then a full 12 months the second time of being homeless. And starting with Crab Park, actually at the tent city at Strathcona, and then protesting and helping with advocacy and just lived experience throughout that time. That's where I'm at, starting Crab Park with others, holding our ground, holding our space, and making it known that, you know, we can't be shuffled around every single time somebody gets tired of looking at us. It's a very difficult thing to have to experience and go through, especially when you're not used to ever having been homeless. I've been on my own since I was 16, and I'm 49 now, and I have 3 boys, and they've never had to experience being homeless until we were forced out of our home. And it's an extremely traumatic thing because they didn't have to go through that, and now they have, and we're still struggling. So it's something that is desperately needed to change, and so I'm still gonna maintain my stance and my positioning and helping where I can help. That's it. Thank you.
I'm Tiffany Zutkin, and I've been in BC for 2 years. I moved from Saskatchewan to BC and got down to Crab Park. And since being down at Crab Park, I'm in a module housing, and I just help out with the bus.
Hello. Sorry. Hello, my name is Larry Coxedge, and I was pretty much there for most of the, most of Crab Park. The opening date that we were there, May 21st, 2022, and they shut us down November 7th, 2024. And every day I woke up and I hassled the rangers, told them to F off, told the police to F off. We didn't want them there. We don't need them there. We can handle our own business. And it was quite the experience, like them coming in, taking all our possessions and laughing about it, shaking hands while they're throwing it in the garbage. And watching them pick out the weak and taking all their possessions and only leaving a handful of us left, caged in pens, like we're on display. And yeah, that's not cool. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Sean Wong, and I know I speak with an English accent, but I'm actually from Vancouver, and spent most of my life bouncing back into. I've been involved in this for a long time myself. I was a resident at Oppenheimer Park. I was a resident in the first Crab Park encampment during COVID. At the second park, Crab Park encampment where I met some of the residents here. I'm currently homeless at the moment. The system doesn't work. Through Oppenheimer, which made international news, I had a place in Kitsilano. I come from a privileged background, and I was there helping people. And my friend said, why don't you put a tent up? So I was paying rent and spending most of my time in the park. I ended up losing my place through involvement with the park, and it's been an absolute joke since. I've never been being put into the social housing or the supportive housing. I don't have, addictions or mental issues. My mental issue is homelessness. The struggle with homelessness. They took my rights away from me, my ability to look after myself, not being able to cook for myself, not being told when I have to eat, when I have to come. It was demoralizing. Absolutely demoralizing. I'm well educated. I have a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, a master's in aeronautical engineering. I spent a long time in the British Army. I know how to look after myself, but they take your rights away from you. You take the ability to look after yourself away from you. And I've never been so uncomfortable in all my life in the so-called housing. Like I was during COVID, when they closed down the Oppenheimer encampment, we were told we could only take 2 baskets of what do you call it, plastic bins, rubber bins to encampment. And everything else was supposed to go into storage. Everything else got thrown away. I was the only person that got some of my stuff back, because from when they closed down Oppenheimer, I couldn't find my father's ashes, so I refused to leave. I said, I'm not leaving anywhere until I find my father's ashes. So at 4 p.m. on the Friday, everybody was out at the park except for myself. At 4 o'clock in the morning, I found my father's ashes and started packing. So I was actually there another 25 hours. And because the stuff that I put away, they gave us 2 garbage cans, wheelie bins, that they were going to put into storage for us to get there. So that's part of a year's stuff. I mean, I built an encampment. I had 18 pallets as my base. And 9 of them was my living area, and the other 9 was a kitchen workshop. With all the donations that came in, I had a big wok. I could feed the 5,000. I cooked every day, with what we could do. But so trying to cram all that to what we could take. 2 bins with basically clothes that went to the Hostel International on Granville Street was where we originally moved into. And weirdly enough, I'd stayed there before, coming in and out of Vancouver before I found a place. So I knew the night manager there. But it was from there. So I moved my stuff over there, but I didn't go there. I went with some of the people didn't want to go into the places, into what they offered us. We moved to Crab Park from Oppenheimer, and that's where the first Crab Park was. So I was camping there, with the room. And when they closed down the initial Crab Park, we were in the car park, not in the actual park where the other residents were. I had no option but to stay in the place. I ended up getting kicked out of there. They stole all my apartments, and that was just a disagreement with management. There's no. It ended up. It wasn't a disagreement with management. I had an assault case with one of the residents. We had an argument. He actually attacked me. I didn't even hit him, But my court said I wasn't allowed on the same floor as him. But the management, because they didn't like me, were determined to get me out of the building. They offered me a shelter, where you have to sign in at 7 o'clock every day. I refused it. Went back outside, just as they were shutting down Strathcona. So I was back into the park, for 10 days, and then they offered they were shutting Strathcona down. But I was always involved with the park since. From Strathcona, I got a room in Patricia Hotel. I don't know if you've heard of that. It is before COVID, I watched a documentary. It's the cheapest hotel in Vancouver, and it's just falling apart. So I had a room there for 2 years, maybe. But stayed there as little as possible. In March, I think this year, I got kicked out of there for a similar thing, disagreement with management. They wanted me out. They held my property hostage, for months. I think I was still paying rent there through with social assistance, because they said as soon as I stopped the rent, I didn't tell social assistance that I wasn't there, and because they just brought my stuff out. I've seen it do it to so many people. What they do, they dangle we'll give you $500 to go to this shelter, and then the next day, as soon as you miss timing, you're out on the street and all your stuff is taken off you. I ended up losing everything again, refusing to go to the shelter. But we're on a time slot, so I'm going to let the next person speak.
Hi there, being mindful of time. My name's Katie, and I've been a volunteer, supporter, and advocate of Crab Park, and now the Crab Park warming bus for the last 3.5, 4 years. And started off as a volunteer, and then, as you'll hear, got involved with the peer witnessing program, overdose prevention site at Crab Park, and now continue that with the bus.
I also volunteer on the bus.
Yeah, everyone here is a volunteer on the bus.
So just in case it's not obvious, we don't have staff. We're really grassroots. So we're not paid staff, and we're just kind of doing this on a really grassroots basis. So I'm going to start by talking a bit about Crab Park. We're going to go through some slides here. We're just trying to figure out how to do the clicker. And I wanted to say that during the conference and at the conference, I've seen and heard a lot of really ugly words about encampments. People talk about resolution or reduction, eviction, moving people along. And so we're here to kind of give the other perspective to that. And I want to give a shout out to the other lived experience groups that are here. So the Kitchener Encampment, Ottawa, Krista, who spoke earlier. A lot of people talking about the importance of lived experience and peer involvement, and against the stigma and discrimination and shame, and more about promoting leadership and skills that people already have. We know they have it. People living in encampments show that all the time. And the fact is that in the here and now, there are a lot of people who live outside, and they have to live somehow and somewhere. So you can talk about shelters and housing, but there's currently about 5,000 people who are homeless in Vancouver, unsheltered in Vancouver. So there has to be a place and a way for them to exist as well. So what we're talking about really is transforming systems and transforming the way that we speak about systems. So Crab Park, as you've heard, it was around for 3.5 years. It did some really groundbreaking work. It was one of the longest running in Canada. And it started, so it was from 2021 to 2024, and had a lot of infrastructure and programs within the camp. And that's where people were kind of just doing that themselves. It wasn't, again, there was no staff. And a lot of what we talk about and the reasons why we do things is that sometimes the service delivery models and the housing itself is part of the problem. So we advocate for people, it all being done by people with lived experience who are living in the encampment or within, who are unhoused themselves. So at Crab Park, again, it was around for 3.5 years. There was a really groundbreaking case called Bamberger, which established, was against the attempted injunction and established the right for people to live in a space and also to be consulted. Kind of changed the way encampments were dealt with in Canada. And in the camp, there was a lot of infrastructure. So there was like a donation shed where people could help newcomers to come to find a tent or clothes or whatever they needed. There was a kitchen tent. So we had a camp cook who would make French toast and burgers, or we did barbecues. And we had residence meetings. People were able to get training by attending a street degree class. And there was also an overdose prevention program Katie mentioned, where it was about peer witnessing. And through that, I think I started noticing, and I guess this was obvious all along, but that people really wanted to help each other, and everyone wanted to be like an outreach worker and a peer worker, which I believe is what everybody was who was living in the encampment. Next. Okay.
Before I continue with the next slide, with a show of hands, how many of you know what's going on with the homeless crisis in Vancouver? Okay. Recent data shows that homelessness has increased 32% since 2020, which is a significant spike since they began reporting in 2005. With a lack of affordable housing, many people remain unhoused. Shelters in Vancouver are not always accessible due to limited beds and safety concerns. Not to mention, after the eviction of Crab Park Tent City and the city's daytime camping ban, Vancouver City Council has cut so many needed programs and decided to freeze construction of new supportive housing, which is urgently needed. With the city failing our people and police enforcing street sweeps, dehumanizing and displacing the vulnerable, our mission is there to help and uplift the community, particularly during extreme weather where the city has failed. As a result, we are trying to fill the gaps left by the other services by being peer-led initiative offering relief and support to the people experiencing homelessness within the downtown east side. Crab Park, Tent City evicted November 7th, 2024. But despite official claims, many people are still unhoused and continue residing in and around Crab Park. Former residents and volunteers provide support throughout the winter. 2025, homelessness reaches an all-time high. People continued being shuffled and swept from place to place. February 26, 2025, we received a private donation, which led to us with the Crab Park community bus. March 2025, former residents started meeting weekly and bus started running. By July 2025, the bus became a cooling bus for the summer months in extreme hot weathers. And by October 25th of this year, we became a warming bus for the colder months for those who are still on the streets.
Okay, so the next slide has the pronunciation of the bus. Let's see if the video works. Does somebody want? Oh, thank you.
Crab. Smuschum.
There we go. That was a pronunciation of crab in Squamish, and that's why we named the bus that, and that's often how we referred to as the Tent City and the space at Crab Park. So, next slide, Larry. Let's see. One sec. For sure. Jump in a sec. No, so, no. Okay. So, what is the bus, the Crab Park Community Bus? So it's a peer-led warming bus that was started at the end of the encampment when we lost funding for the peer witnessing program that had run for 3 years in Crab Park. And there was a lot going on there. Not only was there the displacement, but there was also folks had been doing the community care and working together at the overdose prevention site at the peer witnessing program for years, and they were qualified, are qualified, trained. Sorry, it's hard not to. Qualified, trained, and immediately lost those peer positions that were not only like part of the community as like peer work, community care, but were also like honorarium based. So it was just like a loss of income. So that's where the peer model and the peer staffing kind of came from. It was the folks who had been originally working as peer workers at Crab Park. And what it is a bus. It's a small 16-seat bus that we drive around for a 5-hour shift. And it's a way to co-opt public space because of the street sweeps and because of the continued displacement. It may only be for 5 hours at a time, but it is a way to park and exist in public space and not be disturbed. And then also from that, there's outreach that happens. We have like harm reduction supplies, we have water, snacks, and basic clothing donations, and just knowledge of the community and the ability to answer folks' questions as best we can when they're looking for resources, first aid, and whatnot. No, that one's me.
Oh, that.
All right, so sorry, that threw me off a little bit. So when we talk goals of the bus, it comes down to being mobile, flexible, and rooted in the community. It's peer-led and run and operated, and the importance is the lived experience. There's just everyone who's involved with the bus has deep connections to the community, and everyone knows firsthand how to respond in emergencies, just to daily life in Vancouver on the downtown east side. And most importantly, and very vocally, people know what works and what doesn't. So what we provide are vital resources, and it's in a way to check in on people and maintain that connection to the community that was lost with the destruction of this community space.
Go.
All right.
So for physical resources, we hand out harm reduction, supplies, and community donations. During the summer, we do drinks during both seasons, we do drinks and snacks. In the summer, you'll get like a cold brew. In the winter, you get your hot coffee. We do heating and cooling kits, and then we also do phone charging and more. No, it's not my turn. It's your turn again.
We also offer education and training. I myself have a background in working with the homeless prevention program at BC Housing, as well as working with Vancouver Coastal Health and all the primary care clinics. Also, I've level 3 occupational first aid, worked in all of the homeless shelters across Vancouver. So we do offer a street degree, which is more about working with the community and different scenarios on what to expect and how we've dealt with these certain situations. We have first levels of first aid training, as well as what is the cooking one again? Food Safe, the Food Safe program. We also offer access to those types of training and programs. We have weekly meetings in an old building where we're able to rent space for a nominal fee, a very, very nominal fee, which we're really lucky and grateful to have. We have weekly meetings every Monday, and it's a time to like touch base and debrief and talk about the issues and what's going on with everybody, making sure that the people that were residents at Crab Park maintain some community and family within ourselves, and make sure that we're all staying safe. And because it's a hard go out there. Vancouver is no joke. It's a very dangerous city, but can be very safe too if you keep your roots connected. It is. We also have an upcoming meeting for facilitation training, and a street degree is run out of Vancouver Coastal Health, and we're having a meeting where it'll be one of us that are facilitating the street degree program meetings. We have people that have their degree in street degree, and we also have people who have their masters. So we're very lucky to be able to facilitate these types of programs. And that's just all coming from Crab Park, and then moving to the bus and expanding into something more tangible. Okay, and we also promote activism and advocacy through the community. We keep our voices strong. We try to make sure that with our connections that we also support others in the surrounding communities. We fight against the gentrification of people who have all of their resources within one community, that they shouldn't be shuffled along to another community to have to start all over again, and it's not okay. So we also send letters, and we also make sure that the media is present. We have some pretty solid reporters that come out every time we need them, and we call them and they're there. They'll come out right away with their cameras and they'll make sure that they document how the police are treating us and things like that. We speak at conferences and We also promote peer-led type facilitations of meetings and things like that. We go more with the voices of everybody with everyone who's participating, and we try to accommodate where it's a lot easier for people to want to participate if it's more comfortable and where their voices are heard and things are led the way that we want them to be led, right? So that's about it for that. Now, what else? Am I done? Okay, I'm done.
So Tiffany, do you want to do the building?
No, I guess. I think it had to be. Oh, wait. Building community. So we have our community partners and networks. We build relationships with other tent cities. There's been media releases and letters, and we've also been working with local artists and organizations.
Okay, sorry about that. A little earlier. I had myself an asthma attack. It was too warm in here for me. But as you guys saw before, my fabulous picture, that's how I woke up every day. Woke up, hassled the rangers, followed them around, told them we didn't want them there, told them we didn't need them there. We could look after our own by ourselves. And that picture is the day that they shut our encampment down and put us in little pens and zoos and stuff like that. And how I felt that day was pretty disturbing, like watching all your personal belongings just be thrown out with a bulldozer. And it's like, how would they feel if we did that? Just come and bulldoze all their stuff, throw it away, laugh and high five and stuff like that. It's frustrating because they come there and they have 10, 15, 20 police behind them. And I found out later that a lot of them were police officers from a different city, playing as park rangers. And when I come out every morning and I can see 20 people hang their head and saying, "Oh, we have to deal with Larry again." That's how I start my day. That's how they start their day. But yeah, it was frustrating, but it's not going to keep us down. We do have a voice in the community, and we will get louder and louder, and we will gather our numbers, and we will overcome this. But enough about that. Back to the community bus. We're all about teamwork. We understand where we're coming from. Everybody's, I don't know, I can't say everybody's been there, but everybody that works on the bus, they've all been there and they've all done that, being homeless, had all their stuff thrown away. And we don't discriminate against culture or gender or anything. We come together as a team and work as a team to help everybody who needs it. And the more that we're out there, the more that people know who we are. And I feel like I'm becoming a brother to the community to help those. I want to give back to the community that helped me. And it's, yeah, and this is a learning experience for me. And for the street degree that we are going through, I am the one that has their master's degree in overdose prevention. Okay, thank you.
Continuing on the line with teamwork, what we found is, everybody being in this experience, working together, and what the bus is doing is giving people opportunity to feel a bit of responsibility, get out there and do something. Even if it's, it's only we're only doing 3 shifts, 5 hours a week, and right now, due to funding and the fact that some of the people were sharing it out between the individuals that were mainly running the OPS or had other positions at Crab Park. It's giving the people the opportunity to have a regular schedule, to get some work experience, and responsibility. We're trying to move forward. We were part of the slide that's coming up is those special events, International Overdose and Awareness Day. We were there. She's not here at the moment, but our resident cook at the moment is Kirsten. She was cooking bannock. The other events we did, Truth from Real Cause and barbecue. The last one, which one was the last one? At Crab Park, we had terrible weather. The rain was pouring down, but we were still out there. With the community, the takedown was a bit of a joke, but we made the most of it. We all had smiles on the face. We still had we served many people. 90 people we served, even in the pouring rain. But it was it was a bit of a show. So anything involvement around the city, we try and be involved. If we're not organising it, we'll be there with a tent. Usually with the harm reduction, with safe supply, and I think bannock at every event we've been a part of. Moving forward is the future business with the bus. We've done this on a shoestring budget. So at the moment we were, even with our drivers, we only have one driver that is qualified to have more than so many people on the bus. So if the drivers we're using, sometimes we have to park because we can't be moving with X amount of people on the bus. We only have one qualified driver, but so we're moving on that. We've got people trying to get further licenses and expanding the services. We want to be able to have be able to use on the bus. And we're not quite sure about the laws and what's available. Like why we were stopping and helping is we don't want the driver to get a drug charge because somebody's using on the bus. So there's grey areas that we've had to work with, and none of us are legal specialists, so we've got to be careful in what we do. We are promoting peer-led situations. The fact that showing, especially with the example of the lady over there presented before us, that to show that you can take steps forward, you can't move it. We're kind of maybe halfway where you are, if that, but still trying to do what we can. The homeless issue is just terrible, and hopefully we're showing that it can be done with shoestring budgets. It doesn't have to be. But the biggest thing is that we find is that we're working with people, and they know us from the encampments, but not. There's a lot of fear between government organisations or them, whoever they want to be. A lot of people they do this, they do that, but we are a bridge to that. To say like even at Oppenheimer, the biggest thing I did was filling in people's paperwork. A lot of people don't like to admit they can't read and write, or just don't want to be part of the system. If they've gone through foster care or bouncing in and out of jail, they see anything to do with the government as terrible, and it's just taking the fear away from them, or just doing the little things. We've all been there, and it's the hardest thing is just not to be embarrassed, which is a lot of people don't like to admit what they're going through, and especially for males, there isn't as many places for men to go to. There's no. I think I've not experienced myself. I know some people have the battered husband. There's no shelter for a man that's been beaten by a woman, and most men don't want to speak about it. And a lot of the places don't allow couples or don't allow animals. There's so many restrictions, and what the main things are, whoever's running the place, no matter how many good intentions, they still have their favourites. And it says, if you're not friendly with the person running the things, you're not getting the experience. It's always, some people get treated differently. You know, and if I'm quite outspoken, so is Larry, and with some people that doesn't walk you down too well. But I'm taking too much time again.
So we're going to be mindful of time, and we're going to switch it up a bit. So I'll just quickly talk about some numbers. So now we're seeing about 75 to 100 folks per 5-hour shift. We've seen well over 3,000 people since the bus began in March. As we mentioned at the beginning, we're pretty grassroots, so we're not always up to date on our stats. But what we've been doing since March is that we run 3 shifts a week on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And during the day, that's from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. And that was during the cooling bus season. So when it was hottest, we switched our hours. We started originally on the overnights, tried out a bunch of different stuff, and then ended up on the days for the summer. And at the start of October, we switched back to our evening shifts, which are 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. And the bus is out. When it starts to cool down. And at first, like, we built popularity because, as we mentioned, this came from like a small private donation. So we just had a white bus. But as we kind of started doing outreach and people started getting to know us, and then we got some local artists to spray paint the bus, we got community recognition. People started to see their community members on the bus, and now people look around for us and know that the service is there for them. And next, I'm going to pass it over to Larry to talk about some of the teamwork on the bus, and then we're going to do some reflections, and Fiona will end it. Sorry? We already did. Okay. Scratch that. So we'll do some reflections, and then Fiona and Athena will end us off. I think it's Natasha first. Yeah. There.
So we have a lot of comments and reflections from people that have participated on the bus. And again, this is really just about how transforming service delivery and the experience both for the participants, the outreach workers on the bus, and for the people who are receiving the services. So we have kind of some comments about what it's like to be part of that, and Natasha's going to tell us about one of them.
This neighborhood is often painted in a negative light, but what people don't always see is the strength, resilience, and humanity here. We know that the system has failed a lot of people, whether it's from housing, mental health, or addiction support. But instead of turning away, we're coming together as a community to show up for one another. It's about reminding people that they matter, that they're not invisible. These are our neighbors, our relatives, and our friends. We are not trying to be heroes. We're just doing what we believe every community should do. Take care of the most vulnerable, because when we support each other, we all move forward.
So we've heard that from other people that it's not just a holiday rush of volunteers. And then they're starting to be known in the community, like by familiar faces. The community embraces it, and they have a different understanding. Workers have come a long way as a team. We're more family-based, and it's not just when you're on the clock.
So I guess we wanted to end by talking about how this is ending homelessness, because that's what this conference is about. So again, a lot of when we talk about encampments or hear about encampments, it's all about erasing people, making them invisible, temporary shelters, housing that's inadequate, sweeping people from the streets, and it's housing that's keeping people stuck. They're not moving along. They might have had a chance to be in leadership in an encampment or an informal community living outside, and then they go into housing. They're not able to practice those skills. So this is really about that opportunity for people to use that incredible lived experience to give back and to be outreach workers to support one another, showing that people have that knowledge and have that power to show how those systems should be delivered. Because again, sometimes the service delivery, the way shelters are operated, we've heard a lot about like some of the barriers in shelters and things that make them not desirable necessarily for people to be in. So it's acknowledging that people are coming with these skills, the autonomy of maybe living outside informally in a community and translating it into this service delivery through the outreach model of the bus that continues the encampment model, but it's on a mobile basis because people cannot stay in one place. They're being shuffled from place to place. So it's just real solutions that are being flowing from the experience of being in an encampment. And I want to say, just to kind of wrap up as well, yeah.
Is this on? Hi, my name is Lynn, and I'm the director of an organization here in Montreal called the Indigenous Support Work Project, or in French it's called Projet Soutien de Travailleurs Autochtones. And we do a very similar thing. And part of the whole point of us coming here, can I have our team? Can you guys stand up? This is some of our team, and the whole point of coming here is for like us peer to peer to be able to meet each other. So I think everybody's super inspired by your speak already. There's plans to start our own van. So can Shirley, come up and talk about I was just gonna say 1 minute. Shirley is our peer coordinator, and we do an overdose prevention team, which we just started because there was tragically a spate of overdoses here. And we're just so excited to meet you guys. And just say hi.
Thank you. There's,
Hi.
okay.
Just say hi. We'll come and find you afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Excellent. So we're just going to wrap up this presentation.
One second. Yeah, and we just wanted to add that our team, like obviously we have people with lived experience. We have people here who are currently homeless. So coming to this conference from Vancouver was a huge thing. Like we had missed flights, we had people with no ID, we had people like no phones working. So you're running around the airport with like no phones, very little money, postal strike, having to get police reports for ID. It took like a full week and just like nonstop. And yeah, we are a little bit flustered because we're like so grassroots. But I just think it's really important for this conference. We're really happy to meet other peers. We'd like to invite you to buy hoodies because that helps us. So we've got hoodies for sale. And if there's a People's Choice Award, please vote for us.
Athena?
In the meantime, it sounds kind of political or politicking of me, but BC Housing, I believe, should not exist any longer, and it should be the Community Builders of British Columbia and the peer-to-peer housing initiatives that we put together.
Thank you.
I'd like to say in memoriam and dedicate to all the friends that we've lost along the way that we are still thinking of you, and the reason why that we still move forward is because of you guys and that we have lost, and that we do this as an honorary gesture of we're still trying to keep each other alive, and we'll always think of them and not forget that they were there for us, and we're going to be there for them. Thank you.
Okay. So as you can see, there's a little QR code if you want to scan that for the second presentation. I do want to open it up. We do have about 13 minutes in this room for some Q&A. So I'm going to open it up for anybody that has any Q&A for Krista and Roof 25 or for the crab warming bus. Anybody have anything? There is an open mic there. I'm going to start it off with a question that I have. So if you were looking at, in another community, what do you think you would do differently from the start? Would there be anything that you would change, anything fail forward learning that you could say if there was another situation coming up like yours, what would be the one thing that you would say, definitely do this?
Band together.
Band together. Love that. Okay. Excellent. Take up public space. Okay, I see folks are filing out, so I just wanted to say these presentations from one side of our nation to the other paint a picture of system advocacy from every level. From frontline to policy, lived experience is set to disrupt cycles of homelessness and create more human-centered responsive services. Thank you so much for coming today. If you have questions for Krista and Roof 25 or our lovely panel, please feel free to touch base with them after. We still have one more amazing day. Thank you for everyone who came out today. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Oh, okay.
Yes, these are our lovely sweatshirts.
Yeah.
If anybody's interested, we have one small, we have a medium, and we have a large.
And we're gonna hang around if you want to come up and talk to us. We'll be here for a little bit.
Hi.
I'm assuming Krista will too. Okay, awesome.